Okay now? Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular open... Am I okay? Okay, sorry. Welcome to the regular open meeting of Osoyoos Town Council, February the 9th, 2021 at 2 p.m. in Council Chambers. So I will first of all need a resolution that in accordance with Ministerial Order M192, the Town of Osoyoos regular open council meeting continues to be closed to the public due to the inability to meet physical distancing recommendations made under the Public Health Act in council chambers located at 8707 Main Street, and that to ensure openness, transparency, accessibility, and accountability, the Town of Osoyoos regular open council meetings will continue to be recorded, live streamed, and published on the town's website, and that the regular open meetings will be streamed on Eastlink Community Channel. Could I have a motion, please? Thank you. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Bennett, all in favor? Thank you. Are there any late items, Mrs. Helson? No, thank you. So could we please have a motion that the regular open agenda of February the 9th be approved? Councillor Harvey, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor? Thank you. And we are going to look for the adoption of some minutes, the regular open minutes of January the 26th and the special open minutes of January the 28th, 2021. Could we have a motion, please, to adopt both of those? Councillor King, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor? Thank you. There's no business arising, and so we will go down to, first on the agenda is the Okanagan Basin Water Board report, which has been published. So we have, there's a list of the directors that are on there. I have been elected the chair again, and Cindy Fortin, who's the mayor of Peachland, has also been re-elected as the vice chair. We had a very good report from Vernon, the infrastructure management technician and water resource engineer, provided an overview of the city's new drainage infrastructure prioritization plan. And it was, the nice thing about it, it was that they got a grant for it, and they were awarded a Sustainable Communities Award from FCM, Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and it was using the LiDAR, which is the cameras, the light detection and ranging data, which was done with OBWB and valley-wide flood mapping. So it was a very good use of a lot of the data that had been approved and done at the OBWB. We're also had a report on the zebra and quagga mussels, and there is a little bit more interest from the federal government and the provincial government. Our staff is going to have a look through all of this, and we will look at writing a letter to them again after our March meeting. So could we have a motion, please, to receive and file that report? Thank you. Councillor King, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor? Thank you. And next we have a staff report. Ms. McKay, Regional District of Okanagan Similkameen Bylaw Referral.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. So this is a referral from the Regional District, and the purpose of my report here is to obtain input from the Council on this referral. The report only provides, this report just provides a brief overview of the proposal, and there was more information available at the link provided in this report to yourselves. So again, the applicant here is seeking to amend the official community plan and zoning designations of their property in order to facilitate a bareland strata subdivision of 5 residential lots and 1 conservation area lot. Specifically, it's being proposed to amend the land use designations from large holdings to small holdings and conservation, and amend the zoning of the property under Electoral Area A zoning bylaw from large holdings to small holdings. And council will recall this, we did have a brief conversation about this property before. It's on Highway 3 East, and you can see it as you're looking towards Anarchist Mountain. So as noted above, this, if approved, the development will consist of 5 Bearland strata lots and a conservation area as well. Access to the Bearland strata subdivision is being proposed from Highway 3, and approval of the Ministry of Transportation would be required in order for the bylaw to proceed for final adoption at the RDOS. And as a sidebar, the Ministry of Transportation is actually the approving officer for subdivisions within the regional district. I'm not sure if you're all aware of that or not, but they would also have to approve the subdivision. So with respect to the regional growth strategy, goal 1 of the regional growth strategy is to focus development to serviced areas in designated primary growth areas and rural growth areas. The subject property is outside of the settlement area of Anarchist Mountain and not within the serviced area of the town of Suas. The RGS supports infill development. However, the development of this property is not considered to be infill. Goal 2 of the regional growth strategy is to protect the health and biodiversity of ecosystems in the South Okanagan. The proposed development is located within an area identified as having high environmental values. Applicant is proposing to dedicate a portion of the property for conservation purposes. However, the proposed access to residential lots will be through the ephemeral or seasonal creeks. Just as a sidebar, at this point, the planner for the regional district also stated that the following: it does not occur within a recognized primary or rural growth area. It does not appear to be rural infill, and it is a significant increase to the established densities of the surrounding area. Now, the official community plan review for Area A is in its final stages of preparing this new OCP. And the new OCP, which is currently in draft form, continues to identify this property as large holdings. And this specific designation specifies that the minimum lot size shall be 4 hectares or 10 acres. So you'll recall when we previously reviewed this and council made a recommendation that it not be supported, we suggested that they should review it as part of the official community plan review, and they did, and now we're speaking to that. So implications for our community, the roadworks and construction sites may be seen as negatively impacting the viewscape from our community. Organizationally, council's comments will be forwarded to the RDOS. There are no impacts, of course, to our budget. Significant dates, comment submissions to the RDOS are required by February 15th. And sustainability, the applicant is proposing to service the lots with individual wells and on-site septic systems for each home. And again, the regional growth strategy checklist for this proposal can be viewed at the RDOS website if you so wish. So options before council today. Now, you'll notice that there's just these little check boxes, so that's the way the referrals come into us. You have 4 options: approval recommended for reasons identified, interest unaffected, approval recommended subject to conditions, or approval not recommended for reasons outlined. And of course, we're recommending that approval is not recommended for the following reasons. Visual impact of the proposed road and network and building sites is unclear from the information to date. The proposal is not consistent with the policies of the regional growth strategy. And finally, the proposal is inconsistent with the minimum lot sizes as outlined in the current RDOS Area A OCP, as well as the new draft Area A OCP. Thank you, Mayor McCordoff.
Thank you, Ms. McKay. Can I ask you, when this has come up before, for
Yes.
sure, and the first attachment 1 is dated October 2019.
Correct.
That was first brought forward, and then it was recommended that that they wait until the OCP
That's
review
correct.
is done. Is that why
That's
that's
correct.
happened? Okay. Yes, I quite frankly totally agree with your recommendations. Go ahead, Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If we send in and we're against the development, could the RDOS technically go ahead and do it?
Yes.
Yeah, they ask several communities
That's
and
correct.
so on. Yeah,
I see.
yeah. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. I'm having a bit of a memory failure, and the map doesn't really outline. What's the exact location of this?
I think it's best to describe it as that giant scar as you're driving up the hill on the left-hand side, yeah.
Okay, got it. So no agricultural implications at all with this,
No.
or none at all, eh?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so you are looking at a recommendation from this council.
That's correct.
Go ahead, Councillor Rhodes.
I'll move the staff recommended option.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Are there any other concerns or questions? Okay, all in favor? Thank you very much. That's carried. Ms. McKay, you're next on the list with the Housing Needs Report.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. So here today on the subject of the Housing Needs Report, and I need a council resolution to receive the report. The purpose of my report here is to request that resolution in accordance with Part 525.31 of the Local Government Act, which states that the council must by resolution receive the Housing Needs Report in accordance with this section of the Local Government Act. So the town of Seuss is currently in the process of reviewing our official community plan. Recent amendments to the Local Government Act have created a requirement for all local governments to develop and publish a housing needs report at least once every 5 years. In addition, the Housing Needs Report is an integral part of the OCP review process. Town Council and the management team had an opportunity to review and discuss the Housing Needs Report at our July 14th, 2020 OCP meeting, following which the Urban Matters team put the final touches on the Housing Needs Report, including the provincially required summary form, which outlines the key housing indicators and key findings. So the implications of this particular report and the requested resolution of council are as follows. The community, the Housing Needs Report was undertaken with a combination of detailed technical work and thoroughly facilitated workshops which provide opportunities for public engagement. Organizationally, the Housing Needs Report and the recommendations made through the Best Practices Report are providing direction to the OCP policies related to housing. There are no impacts to the budget associated with this report. And again, the Housing Needs Report and Best Practices Report are now finalized and will be referenced in the new OCP. Sustainability, the OCP will align with the Town of Seuss Integrated Sustainability Plan. The recommendation is that Council of the Town of Seuss receive the attached Housing Needs Report 2020 in accordance with Part 525.31 of the Local Government Act.
Thank you very much. And can I ask, I just had one question about this. How often is this Housing Needs Report updated? Is it the next time an OCP comes out, or can it be?
After April 22nd, 2022, we'll be required to update it every 5 years.
Okay, great.
So we're a year ahead of the game. So, I would suspect that the best time to do it the next time would be when I turn 65. That's in 2025 or 2026.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about this? Could someone like to move a recommendation here, please? Thank you, Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mayor McCardoff. I'll move the staff recommended option.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor King. All in favor? Thank you very much, Ms. McKay.
And thank you very much, and I look forward to bringing the new OCP to you next month.
Good. Okay. Next is the contract award for Main Street Improvements Design, Park Place to Kingfisher Drive. Mr. Brownstein.
Thank you, Worship. Again, staff is asking for a contract award for Main Street improvements. This is for the section of road between Park Place and Kingfisher. Staff is recommending that award be given to the highest ranked proponent of WSP Canada, and that we also include the extended element 4 to include the entire corridor from Eagle Crescent to Cottonwood as part of his conceptual design. There is two options before council. One is fairly lengthy and basically that pre-budget approval will be awarded for $70,000 so they can start the process, and that council present or award service element number 1 to WC Canada, and that service element number 4, the conceptual master plan for the entire street, be awarded as well as part of this contract for a total contract cost of $64,430. And option 2 is council not proceed with option 1 and re-release the RFP.
Thank you. I had a question when I was looking at this, and there was $100,000 in the budget for both of those things, and you're suggesting we're using 65. Does that mean 35,000 of that would be left over then, would not be used today?
Would not be used today, Your Worship. There may be some further investigational work that we may do and may include that in the total scope, so I may start to creep up on that 100,000.
You will then come back to us if there's something more that needs to be done?
Of significant value, yes, Your Worship, we can come back to.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mayor McCorduff. So in your suggested options, you're asking for pre-approval of the budget amount and for us to award the contract to the highest ranking proponent that bid on it. Typically, we receive a little bit more information in the report about the other candidates that bid on it, you know, the dollar values. I know we don't go into a lot of detail about it. The other businesses that quoted on it get notified by you. I'm aware of that. We have knowledge of the reports and how you arrived at that, but the public does not have that information. In almost every RFP that we've awarded or any kind of a tender, we've always made a list or had a recommendation from our engineer about how they arrived at that particular decision. And I would find it very helpful if that could be included in some of the future reports. I understand that there is a confidentiality component to this, there's information, but I think listing the dollar values would be helpful. There are some members of the community that are interested in that, and unless they do a lot of personal research on it, they would not have that information available. So it would be a good thing to perhaps include some of the non-confidential information that's part of that bidding process.
Are you going to speak to that?
I think I'm going to let CAO Chabot
Well,
speak
Your
to
Worship,
that.
I just think that, yeah, we could give the names of the other firms that bid on RFPs, and we could give and publish in the report the evaluation criteria that led to the staff recommended option to award, without the individual ratings, because and without publishing the RFPs, because the RFPs will contain proprietary, confidential, commercial business information sometimes, protected under Section 21 of the FOI Act. And we wouldn't say how they were ranked relative to each other, but we will tell council every time who was the top-rated proponent. So, yeah, I agree. We could give you a little more detail. I don't know that price would be that relevant. I think in this one, price was for 40%, was it? Or was it less? Was it 20?
I believe it was less, Mr. Chabot.
Sorry, I should have brought
I think it was
those details.
30% for this particular.
40.
Was it
It
40?
was 20. Yeah, so price was down the scale of the evaluation criteria
Yeah.
published.
Go ahead.
Thank you for that information. That's exactly what I was suggesting. I had a lot of words in there to ask that same thing. In the past, we have always received a listing that listed the company name and not their ranking or any confidential information or any of the stuff that we go through to evaluate it, but it did have the dollar value. So the reason why I like to see that is because we have a commitment to, Tilma to accept, bids from everywhere. I've always been a support local business person, and if we had two competitive bids that were very, very close and there was a local, I would be prepared to debate the decision if it went to the other one because of, you know, they were in Edmonton and a local bidder was $4 less than, you know, and I understand it, but I think it's worthy of debate. Looking at this report in its purest form does not supply that information. I'm not being critical of the report. I'm asking about, you know.
It's a tricky one, because in the past, the communities used the tender process to award civil contracting type projects, and normally that is done through, you know, lowest bid wins. So all the bids are open to the public, they're known, they're everything. When you start looking at the RFP process, it's a completely different ball of wax. We're looking at, you know, what you're providing us for the amount of money that we have. So we look at, you know, the information and the quality of the work we're going to get instead of the cost of the work. So as soon as you start saying you're going to start going back to that lowest bid proponent thing, it throws out that quality aspect and says, well, you know what, we don't care what you're going to give us, just tell us how much it's going to cost and we're going to go with that. And the reason why we go down the RFP process is we want to make sure we're getting best value for dollar. So the RFP allows us to then establish what those criteria are, what we need to do to make this project move forward at the best dollar for the information that we're going to be provided. Normally with engineering services, it's better to use an RFP process than a tender process because of the fact that you're looking for information, you're looking for somebody to provide you with design. You're not saying, you know, here's A, B, C, and D, bid on it, please, because we know exactly what A, B, C, and D are. That's where the tender process comes in. And that's starting to change. That's starting to become obsolete as well when it comes to major civil projects. A lot of communities are going to design build, which is more of the RFP process. Tenders are inherently hard. They're inherently weak because if you don't get everything bang on in that tender, those unknowns become the contractor's gravy, and they go and they look for holes. They look for things that can't be seen to the engineer or to the bidding company. So I appreciate the fact that, you know, that every time you guys have seen these types of proposals or these types of information, it's always been highest rank or lowest cost proponent. Unfortunately, as we move forward, the RFP process is going to be coming to you guys more and more and more, where it's going to be the highest ranked proponent, not the lowest cost to the community. So again, we're looking to provide the community with the best product in the end of all this instead of the cheapest product. Cheaper doesn't always mean better. I mean, you can, so that's just.
So what else was included besides, you had several other criteria you were looking at. One was, of course, cost. So is that included in the list that you have provided? Is that what it is? Or
no, so those are the scopes in which we're looking at for the overall proponent. Basically what we were looking at in regards to the RFP was methodology, how they were going to go about this, who they were going to interact with, etc. Second was their experience. You know, show me other projects you've done in the past. Show me the relevance that they are to what we're asking for, and the experience of the staff that they're providing as part of the process.
Okay.
So we're not getting the junior engineer that's been on the job for 6 months and they're going to throw us at it and say, here you go, deal with a ton of Soyuz. Does that answer your question, Your Worship?
Yes, and how many, like, do you have a team of people that look at these these RFPs and say?
That is correct, Your Worship. Depends on the RFP. So, for instance, this one was myself, CAO Chabot, and Ms. McKay. For other ones, it may be myself, the fire department, and one of my staff.
Okay.
For some other project, it might be Gerald that gets involved because of the fact that he's the guy that has the knowledge in regards to the scope. So it varies between projects, but yes, there's at least 3 members of staff that review these things as part of the process.
Thank you. Councillor Rhodes had another question, and then Councillor King.
Thank you, Member Cardiff. Well, not to sound argumentative, but when these reports are presented to council, one of the components that council feels good about, or at least this councillor feels good about, is the opportunity to debate decisions.
Yep.
And without having the other information as part of the reports, then that eliminates that possibility. That's the reason why I'm asking. I would like to be able to see, because once again, I'll repeat myself, if you get a bid from somebody in Kamloops that's very, very, close to a business in our area, then I would like the opportunity to debate that. And there is value in supporting local contractors.
Okay. So may I, Your Worship, comment on that?
Yeah,
That
go
was
ahead.
the other one I forgot to comment on. As a public organization, as a community, our hands are tied in regards to what we can and cannot award with regards to local or non-local. We are tied to the Western Trade, I can't remember what it's called. Northwestern, yeah. It was Tilma, now it's expanded to, I believe, Saskatchewan and Manitoba. So they've now broadened that out, and there's a requirement for us to follow that, and that negates the ability for council, for staff, or for anybody to say that we are going to prefer local contractors. So this becomes the tough part, is that we're evaluating on what they're presenting, what they're providing, everything else. I can't put a criteria in there that says we'll evaluate on your local aspect, because that again goes against trade agreements, and we could be challenged by other proponents saying, well, no, you have to abide by this trade agreement. How come all of a sudden, because you prefer this proponent, he's local and he was $5 more, he's still more than me, or he was less ranked than me, or whatever, and we can be challenged on that. So I understand, where the community's coming from in regards to this. It's just hard because there's all these other avenues that start to play into these decisions. It's not just, we look to see the biggest bang for the buck, but unfortunately our hands are tied in regards to what we can and cannot require of these.
Okay, Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess the way I understand it, this is two separate little contracts. Did any of these companies build on both for the boulevard and the sidewalk, or are they kind of specialties?
Sorry, Councillor King, I'm not quite following you on this one.
There's two contracts here, right? One for the boulevard, one for sidewalk. Am I correct to start?
No, this would be full road cross-section, including sidewalk and boulevard, is what they're providing us.
It sounds like you're giving one to the service element, one to the...
Sorry, so those are two different. There's four aspects to the RFP.
Okay.
These are two aspects of the RFP that we'd like to award at this time.
Okay.
So the first aspect was the project between Park Place and Kingfisher.
Mm-hmm.
The other aspect was the entire corridor from Eagle Ridge or Eagle Crescent down
Okay.
to Cottonwood. So what we're asking is council's authorization to now award both those elements so that we're getting some economy of scale and a little bit of consistency in our designs.
Mixed up on the terminology.
Sorry.
Okay,
I
and,
think
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I got no problem believing in the staff review and your type of criteria. You're the professionals. We aren't. I get a little nervous though when you do the other type of RFP. We're not necessarily going for the lowest bid and just spending taxpayers' dollars because you like those people or you think they're the best. So just comment.
So you just have to have a, back it up with why you think they're the best, absolutely. Okay, so, that's, I think I understand it better now. How about anybody else? Okay, could we have a, motion, please, based on this report? Is there somebody who'd like to make a motion?
I move number one.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Thank you. Councillor Bennett. Any other concerns? Okay, all in favor? Thank you very much. That was carried. Thank you. And I think you're up next, Mr. Brownstein. That would be the grant application for FCM Asset Management.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, we're looking for council support on a grant application to Federation of Canadian Municipalities for some asset management money to continue our closed-circuit TV inspections of our sanitary sewer system. So this is phase 2 of phase 1 that we did in 2019, and we're just looking to continue this program. And we'll be asking for $50,000 worth of grant funding from FCM and contributing $20,000 out of our own budgets.
And is it contingent on having the grant funding?
So there are options before council. So option 1 is that we look for the grant funding and subsidize that with our $20,000. Option 2 is that we don't proceed with the grant funding, and option 3 is that we proceed with only $20,000 worth of the work. So if we're unsuccessful in the grant funding, we still could continue with $20,000 worth of CCTV work, which will probably equate to maybe 10 kilometers worth of I wouldn't say, yeah, probably about 10 kilometers worth of main inspected.
Okay, and this has been budgeted in the sewer capital program. So
That is
we're
correct, Your
okay
Worship.
with that 20. Anybody have it? Go ahead, Councillor Rhodes.
I'm going to jump in and ask kind of a related question. Has FCM indicated any bigger picture infrastructure programs at all?
When it comes,
vague memories of us waiting for a couple of grant announcements. I'm wondering if anything has been.
I haven't heard anything, Councillor Rhodes. FCM wasn't the one dealing with those grant programs. That was provincial and federal funding that we're waiting on. These are fairly small grant programs that come up every year, and we'll actually be looking to apply for them again next year for some major asset management work for both our water and wastewater systems.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. If we chose option one to move forward, and I respect bringing money into town, and perhaps you don't get this funding, you don't spend another 20,000, or you come back and ask for that 20 to spend. It's the way it's worded, you don't get the 20 unless you get the grant.
So the 20 is budgeted for, Councillor King. So if we aren't successful in the grant program, there is the opportunity for staff to move forward with that 20,000 expenditure to do some CCTV work.
We just won't get the whole thing done.
No,
We'll
Yes,
get, yeah, okay.
I read it a little different.
Sorry, so have we moved and second? No, we haven't. Okay, is there some, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor McCarty. I'll move the staff recommend adoption number 1.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bennett. Any other questions or concerns? Okay, all in favor? Thank you very much. And next we have the working alone procedure. That would be Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council approved the working alone policy HR 022 in 2014. This policy was put into place to make sure that employees who were considered to be working alone or in isolation had a procedure in place. This is mandated by WorkSafe BC, and employers must have procedures in place to ensure the safety and well-being of their workers. The current policy is very lengthy and is outdated. In order to fulfill this requirement, staff is proposing a new procedure for working alone and to rescind the current policy. Attaches the old policy and the new procedure for working alone. All staff will be required to adhere to this procedure, and management will need to conduct crew talks to make sure all staff have been updated. The new procedure involves a program that can be accessed by mobile phone and will make it easier for staff to report when working alone. The draft procedure has been reviewed by the Joint Occupational Health and Safety Committee and by management and approved for implementation by the CAO. In terms of implications for the community, providing a safe work environment within the community, organizational, crew talks will need to be conducted for all staff, and we would like to do this ASAP, and sustainability, improving a safe and sustainable workplace. The options before council: number 1, for council to rescind policy HR 022. And number 2, for council not to make any changes at this time. And staff is recommending option number 1. Once the procedure is in place, the CAO will have the flexibility to approve updates or changes to the working alone procedure if changes are required in the future.
Thank you. So you're just asking for council to rescind HR 022. Are you then going to come back with the second proposal, or does that automatically trigger the updated version?
So what happens when the policy is actually rescinded, because council put the official policy in place, because now the CAO will have the actual procedure signed off.
Okay.
So that wouldn't need to come back to council.
Is that's,
Yeah, Your Worship, council does establish policy. Oftentimes administration will establish procedures to implement that policy. This is a requirement of provincial legislation. And so organizationally, we need to establish a procedure whereby, and a policy isn't necessary because the provincial legislation mandates that.
okay. So yes, I read through the old policy. It is quite complicated, isn't it? you'd be sitting there all night trying to read the policy before you could ever figure out what to do. Okay, is there anybody who would like to make a motion based on the report? Go ahead, Councillor King.
Yeah, option number 1 for council to rescind policy HR-022.
Okay, is there some, Councillor Rhodes is seconding that. Are there any other questions, any other concerns? Okay, thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much. And, oh, they've grouped you all together. There you go. Mr. Davis, you're next. RDOS funding agreement.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. The town and the regional district of Okanagan Similkameen have developed an agreement to fund recreational activities for residents in Area A. The agreement is based on population similar to the Sun Bowl Arena agreement. Area A residents represents approximately 25% of the population, and the current agreement was based on that percentage of the programming expenditures. The RDOS has forward an agreement to offset the costs associated with recreation for residents of Area A who use our facilities and programs. The agreement will be for 5 years and will expire December 31st, 2025. We did not want to propose a two-tiered system where A residents pay a different rate than town residents. Staff has negotiated a rate of $70,000 to be paid annually for 5 years. With COVID-19 this year, our 2021 budget estimations for programming are lower due to restrictions on programming. Since we do not know how we will recover from COVID-19 and what our actual costs will be, we have proposed a standard annual rate. For the remaining 4 years of this agreement, we should be on track with the amount reflecting 25% of the actual expenditures. Capital improvements are not included in the calculation of the agreement. In terms of implications for the community, this funding will assist the Community Services Department in program activities for the town and the RDOS residents in Area A. Organizationally, agreement preparation and monitoring of the agreement. The budget is $70,000 annually for 5 years. Staff has discussed this amount with the Director of Finance, and it is currently included in the 5-year operational budget. We would like to do this ASAP. The options before Council: option 1, for Council to approve the funding agreement between the RDOS and the Town of Osoyoos for a 5-year term for recreation and leisure activities, and to authorize the signatories to sign the agreement. Option number 2, for Council to direct staff to negotiate a different agreement with the RDOS and bring back at a later time. And option number 3, for Council not to approve the agreement at this time. And staff is recommending option number 1, the opportunity to partner with the RDOS to offset the cost of recreation and leisure programming is beneficial for all residents.
Thank you very much. What happens, I mean, you're specifically saying that it's Area A. What happens if it's somebody who is not in the town or not in Area A? How do we deal with that, or do we?
Most times, well, anytime we run a program, we take people's names and their information, and we have that in our system, and that's what we do with booking. If somebody comes from out of town and does a program, we don't charge any different. We don't have a two-tiered system. This is in place mostly for people who do live here or live in Area A.
Yes.
There may be some other people that don't live in Area A that does live close by as well, that may, take part in these activities.
So what happens about snowbirds? Are they included in this as well?
For the most part, yes. So if a snowbird came forward and wanted to sign up for a fitness class, they would have that opportunity to do that.
Because they would have an address they could show you in
Absolutely.
town. Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. Go ahead, Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Member Kordoff. On our, what we refer to as our east bench, there's a couple of, I think there's 3 irrigation districts up there. One of them is quite large, has about 85 or 90 residents up there. Are they included in, they would not be included in the Area A?
I believe they are. I believe
They would be, because they are a separate entity from the,
Just their water I think they're considered in Area A, but they have their own water district.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are Area A. They might even have some of the services of the town under an agreement.
Rural fire, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I think.
okay. So I had a couple more questions.
Sure, go
here.
ahead.
Is this found money?
No, we've had this in our budget for the last 10 to 12 years. Originally, when we brought this forward, Director Pendergraft was involved, and it was through our commission. And I think we started at $40,000, and we wanted to build it up till we got to the 25% or thereabouts. We used to have a CPI built into the agreement, and we just thought that having this agreement as a standard rate for the 5 years, kind of due to COVID, because this year we will get more than that because of the lack of programs that we were going to offer, but it will work itself out over the next 4 years.
I'm really glad you brought this report forward in this public forum. There are a fairly large number of residents in our community that have been very critical about non-residents using our facilities for free and that kind of thing. So I'm very happy that this is now, this is kind of the first time that I've seen this. I have no memory of ever seeing it before. So there is a lot of value in that, because now it's, you know, brought forward in the public at a public meeting and that kind of thing, and be valuable information for people to know that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. And if people come in and ask you, you explain that, like at the community center, you explain how it works?
Yes, we also share that information with our Community Services Advisory Committee.
Okay.
So at our next meeting in February, this will be on as information. We would normally have shared this prior to bringing it forward. And for the same fact, with COVID and lack of meetings, we've only had one meeting in, I think, 6 or 8 months. So we will be on track for February, and we will have one every other month.
Good, thank you. Now, so did somebody move that? Not yet? Okay. Councillor Bennett, you're moving that?
Thank you, Mayor Recordoff. Yeah, I'll move option 1.
Okay. Councillor King is seconding that. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Next, we have the payroll account, general net payroll and Sun Bowl Arena financial accounts. And this is to report on expenditures from accounts payable and payroll information for council to receive for information purposes. So the general cash requirements from up to February the 9th are $613,881.09. The Sun Bowl cash requirements are $8,420.58, and net payroll accounts of $73,121.07. So the options are, number 1, for council to receive the general cash requirements, Sun Bowl cash requirements, and net payroll accounts as referenced above for information purposes, and number 2, to request additional information from staff. And the recommended option is number 1. Is there somebody who'd like to make a motion? Thank you. Councillor Rhodes, you're moving option 1?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Bennett, seconding that. All in favor? Thank you very much. And next is the building report, and it looks like we have a little bit of, total for the month is $2 million. So we've got some renovations, interior alterations, renovate the ensuite shower. The only one that I can't figure out is 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th one down says First General Okanagan, and it has the construction, and then intended use, it just has the address again. And so I'm thinking that maybe whatever they were planning to do there is missing. The one, Shirley Kubrin. So, and we have the Freedom 17 investments, the construction of 7 residential units, over light industrial garages and a single-family dwelling. Total $2 million for this month. Is anybody have any questions or concerns, or would like to move that we have report be received? Thank you very much, Councillor Rhodes. Councillor King is seconding that. All in favor? Thank you very much. And we will now go to the CAO report.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not a whole lot to report today. Just wanted to update council on the process to hire a fire chief for the town. The challenges of doing this in a pandemic world is really quite something. We've got, we're down to 3 candidates. One's from out of province, one's from one of the territories, and so the opportunity or the propriety, I guess, of bringing individuals from outside of our province or in one of the territories to our community at this time isn't really there. So this might be a new reality for hiring. When you're looking at senior positions, you might look at people and you might do it, the majority of it remotely. It feels a little strange to not have had the opportunity to meet people in person, but this might be the new reality. It might be the way we're going to do business for a while. Also on hiring, the advertisement for the executive assistant communications coordinator position, the posting closes on Friday coming up. So if anyone's interested in applying for that, I think we've had a pretty good response to it. So we hope to get someone in place for that role soon. Continue with town hall space needs and pre-design report. I think I mentioned last time, we need some sort of exterior design concepts, and then a draft report will be ready to present to council and to the community through Zoom type meetings, electronic presentations. An RFP for the South Okanagan Aquatic Center feasibility study will be released either later today or tomorrow, and that's a project in partnership with the Osoyoos Indian Band and the town of Oliver. Anticipate it being a 6-month process to prepare a report that assesses the feasibility of a regional aquatic center for the service area participants. We continue to do planning to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic, preparing for offering assistance to IHA with vaccinations, and I think they might have visited and toured some facilities with Mr. Davis. They've indicated they'd need a place for 7 days a week for up to as much as 7 months, which is a pretty big ask of us with our space and their desire to have a space exclusively for themselves. But we'll do what we can to help. We're going to talk tomorrow just a review of our operations, our facilities, and our revenues in light of COVID. And Province Ministry of Agriculture, BC Tree Fruits, BC Wine Growers Association, talking again about the issue of domestic farm workers and what will we do for this coming year. Happy to see that we're at it a little bit sooner. The effort, in my view, began too late last year to be any assistance to Osoyoos, and that's in part because our soft fruit crops become ripe the soonest, and so we're hit the first. And you know, the pandemic really started to show itself in mid-March, and by the time processes got rolling, it was almost too late to help. And so hoping we can come up with some better solutions. Community Services has got hosting 2 public skating events for Family Day weekend. I think they're on the Sunday and the Monday. And folks do need to call ahead, book a time, because we're limited in the number of people we can host in the building with the pandemic regulations. And there's some small Family Day activity kits that people can pick up at the Sonora Center between starting tomorrow until the 16th. A little bit of public skating going on. We're seeing with the extension of restrictions with COVID orders, more and more communities closing facilities early. A lot of them are closing down skating rinks, curling rinks. We kind of hope that things start moving the other direction, but it's been a challenge. Hope to issue a RFP for someone to operate the Desert Sunrise Marina. Hopefully that'll go out maybe next week. Corporate services, been busy helping with human resource issues, with job postings, with applications, dealing with correspondence out of council, attending to FOI requests, liability claims, damage claims, trying to get the upper hand on some of our agreements and leases that we seem to get to oftentimes slightly after they've expired as opposed to ahead. We know that's a priority for council. Financial services is busy with year-end and issuing T4s to folks dealing with some short-term disability applications, fleet insurance renewals, and the upcoming audit. Fire department responded to another structure fire, this one on February the 2nd in the 8900 block of 92nd Avenue, which unfortunately sent 3 persons to hospital. By the time they arrived, the fire was largely out, but there were injured people and they were transported to hospital for care. They continue to sign up new members and carry on with the training to receive NFPA 1001 certification for a bunch of our paid on-call volunteers. Planning and Development Services, as Director McKay noted earlier, hope to present a draft OCP to council in March. Business license renewals continue to come in. Lots of inquiries about new businesses and inquiries about food truck locations for the upcoming summer. I think the takeout food business for restaurants has been a lifeline, and probably food trucks are forming part of that option for people. Bylaw Services continues to deal with parking and dog complaints and dogs off leash complaints. And in the world of operational services, it's been largely routine maintenance other than the usual of continuing to operate water, sewer systems, all manner of things. COVID raises a question of what do we do about our seasonal staff and our additional help, and are we going to bring them on or not? And so, again, that's just part of that larger discussion we keep having. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Could we have a motion, please, to approve the, where is it here? To approve the, do we have to? It doesn't say here. Oh, yes, we have that be received. Okay. The CAO report be received. Thank you. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor King, all in favor. Thank you very much. I'm reading the wrong line. Okay, now we will go to council reports. Councillor Rhodes, you're first.
Thank you, Madam Kordoff. Well, first off, I'd like to encourage everybody that's listening to go back and have a look at our building report. Building reports are often a barometer to how well our economy is doing in a community. Once again, my math will be out a little bit, but I think we're about 4 times the value of last year. That's a good statement that our economy is doing really well. It's pretty solid. And I say that only because of some of the critical comments I had about the results from last year. So we're so much further ahead now. It's nothing but positive news. Secondly, I'd like to congratulate our mayor on being brought back as the chair of the Okanagan Basin Water Board. Such a valuable organization in that really does affect an awful lot of things that we do in our community. They provide grants and programs and so many things that are such a positive thing. And how lucky are we to have multiple years of our mayors being the chair of that organization. I don't even know how far back we go. Not to belittle anything that our mayor does, but she does a heck of a good job up there and brings a local component to our community as well. She has a bigger picture to fulfill there, but there is a component in our community that's very valuable. So I'm really, really happy that that's been brought back again, and congratulations, Sue.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
The past 2 mayors, Mayor Wells and Mayor John Slater, they both were chairs of the Okanagan Basin Water Board too. So I think that it's important to kind of carry on the tradition. But I mean, we have a big amount of water here, our lake, and it's a confusing one. So it's good to have somebody local on there. Thank you very much. Okay, Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended the Accessibility and Age-Friendly Committee through a Zoom meeting on February 4th. Ms. Gina McKay, Director of Planning, was in attendance, and there was a lot of discussion around looking at the parking bylaw for accessible parking, and there was some discussion, identified a couple of locations that might be doable. And the other main thing, I'm just touching on a couple of things. I'm sure you'll get the full report from Director Davis at our next meeting. We're talking about 3 audible signals, possibly one at Highway 3 and 97, one down at Park Place and Spartan Drive, and the other one down at Cottonwood and Higher 3. So as we move forward, you'll hear more about that, but that's actually been on our agenda for 3 years, and it sounds like Mr. Davis possibly talked to Highways, and there might be some matching funds there, so we're actually pretty excited about that.
Good, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Davis, for continuing with that. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. January 27th, school board, 53. Basically, they're doing a lot of work now going with touchless faucets in various schools, and they're doing new hand washing stations at SOSS and OSS, which I think is a great thing. I'm very happy with the grad rate for the Aboriginal students. They sent a special thanks out to Trustees Coates and our Brenda DeRose, who's from here, and all the good work they've been doing on that committee. And basically, they've changed the rural education fund to a small community supplement, so the school board here received about $2 million above their normal amount they asked for, rather than the rural fund, so you'll be hearing more about that. February 1st, I attended the Trails of the Okanagan meeting, and then Thursday, February 4th, we did a DO risk management policy discussion, which I found really good. It was to do with Destination Soyuz, of finding out what kind of risk we'd have if the government, say, cut back and went a different direction in funding, or if they decide to go their own way and run the tourist information, or you decide to do something about the building. So it's a really good lesson, to go through. That's my report.
Thank you very much. Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have a report this week.
Thank you. So I just had a couple of things. One meeting that I was on a phone call with Minister Osborne, Minister of Municipal Affairs, and she asked all of us in our central, not Okanagan, it's called, I can't quite remember, but it goes up to Clearwater and over to the Merritt and over there and down. So it's quite a big area, and there are probably 25, 30 of us on the call. And so she had asked how we were doing in terms of COVID and our economics and so on of the town. And so I did explain to her, because it was the day after we had our budget meeting, that we had used some of the COVID restart grant for shortfall in revenues from 2020 and shortfall in projected revenues for 2021, and that we had a couple of things that we had also looked at spending money on, and that we were keeping some of it, balance as needed. And she was quite pleased to hear a report like that from how we were dealing with it. I also said that a lot of communities do not have as many people, especially tourists right now, but I said our RV parks were full. We had quite a few snowbirds here, and I checked with Destination Soyuz, and they say that the number of snowbirds is equal to about last year, and that although there were a few cancellations, that we were doing pretty well, but that makes a difference when people are coming to our town to spend a couple of months and have their own place with kitchens and that type of thing, rather than a weekend, which is the problem that some of the ski hills are having, because people are coming and they tend to want to party. So we've heard about that. The of course, we had our day-long budget meeting, and we all participated in that, and those minutes are available on our website. I had a meeting yesterday with Kim English, who is looks after the Community Foundation of the South Okanagan, and we had quite a long conversation about how perhaps donating locally to the Community Foundation, how they could help support our 75th birthday for the year, and I thought that was a good idea. And I did mention the concern that we had about primary care networks and health in our town, and how we could we use some of that money, or could we find a way to assist in promoting that. And she was quite open to listening, and has done community events before, and would really like to see if she couldn't help us deal with some of those things. No idea where we're going to go with this yet, but you know what, we'll talk about it. And she and her husband live over in Headley, but she has decided to be a snowbird in Asuyas for the month of February, and is living at one of our motels. So what a good idea. Anyway, she has a lot of experience dealing with Community Foundation. They can offer tax receipts to people because they have that ability. And she was quite open to looking and seeing what we could work together on. So we'll continue to have a look at that. And the other thing I wanted to say is I went into the art gallery beside us the other day, and I would encourage everybody to go in there this month. They have a phenomenal display of quilts. Many of them are not for sale, and that doesn't surprise me. When you see the amount of work and effort that's been put into them, I wouldn't want to sell it either if I'd gone to that much work. But there are many, many people in Asuyas and in the surrounding areas that are quilters, and you will be astounded. So it's well worth going in and having a look. And I don't think I have anything else for right now. So I will move the meeting to the in-camera section. And we need a motion that the public be excluded from the in-camera meeting pursuant to section 91C, labor relations or other employee relations, section 91K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages, and that in the view of council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. And section 91E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements. If the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality of the community charter. So could I have a motion that we move into in-camera, please? Hello? 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 No, it's not on. I know it is. The light's on, but it's not on. Thank you. Hello? Is that better? Hello? Okay, there we go. So you ready? Okay, we're returning to the regular meeting, and before we adjourn this meeting, I'd just like to mention that it was brought to our attention that the farmers market is on this weekend. That would be the 12th of February. It's at the Sonora Center Gym, and it will be from 10 o'clock until, is it the 12th or the 13th? 13th, excuse me, February 13th, and it's from 10 o'clock until 2 o'clock. So please come out and support local businesses. And we will now entertain a motion to terminate the regular open meeting. Councillor King, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you.